As much as the title of this movie doesn't make sense, considering one of Spidey's last appearances in this universe was in space, it doesn't detract from how much I enjoy this movie. Like and subscribe and hit that notification bell. And if you're new, check out the rest of the channel and let me know what you think. Let's dive into Spider-Man: Far From Home. This go-round, we follow Peter and his classmates as they gallivant around Europe and try to survive numerous attacks from Mysterio and his elementals. This film, like its predecessor, is a ton of fun. It is a welcome follow-up to Endgame since its narrative is simple and on a smaller scale, allowing for a much-needed break from these massive world-ending team-up event movies. Holland picks up on his second solo outing right where he left off. He is the best live-action Spider-Man we've ever had. Even as someone who grew up with the Maguire films, I don't even think there's a strong opposing argument. He was born to play this role. He's charismatic, he's funny, he just has that Spider-Man vibe, and he is perfect. Jake Gyllenhaal, like always, what a performance. In my opinion, he's one of the best actors working today. To say that I was excited when he got cast would be an understatement. John Watts' version of Mysterio is another interesting take on this villain and his power set. It makes sense in the context of this universe, and it only makes the villain more formidable to our hero. And Gyllenhaal nails every scene. With his performance, he's able to not only trick Peter, but also the audience. Now, as a comic reader, I spent a lot of the film sort of waiting for the other shoe to drop because I'm familiar with Mysterio's gimmick, but I think Gyllenhaal and Watts did a fantastic job masking this character's actual personality and his true intentions for any newcomers to this character. Even scenes like the giant exposition dump inside the bar are still very enjoyable due to Gyllenhaal's incredible acting. Sure, you're having an entire truckload of new characters, backstories, revelations, and motivations dropped on you, but you don't care because Gyllenhaal just chews up every snippet of dialogue in this scene. I never understood the complaint about his power and utilizing the drones and technology, etc. I mean, this guy makes a living off of deceiving people, utilizing different types of technologies to create elaborate illusions. He's a trickster. I personally do not care how he does it. In the illusion scene when he bests Peter is just chef's kisses. Where I will agree with a lot of the critics, though, is with Beck's motivations and his character's origin. It is yet another villain in a long line of villains that have a personal vendetta against Tony Stark, having been screwed over by him in the past. This is one thing I hope changes going forward into Holland's next trilogy. I hope we get more villains that have a personal link to our hero and kind of move on from the whole Tony aura that surrounds this character currently. I recognize that there were a lot of people who were upset about once again taking Peter out of Queens and out of New York. I get it, but quite frankly, I didn't mind it. I mean, we had 6 solo Spidey movies that take place in and around New York. I think taking this character and letting him travel abroad was a refreshing new idea and direction to go in. Plus, we get that dope Spidey stealth suit along with the silly Night Monkey joke. Speaking of suits, the red and black suit might be my favorite that the Holland Spidey has ever donned. Now, I will say, I hope we do get a more traditional Spidey story going forward, but the European family vacation style Spider-Man, I did not mind at all. I really enjoy watching Peter's relationship develop with MJ. Holland and Zendaya's chemistry couldn't feel more natural and believable if they tried. And of course it couldn't, because they're about to be married. I get it. I know she isn't the traditional MJ and not everyone's favorite, but their on-screen chemistry is electric, and I think it's undeniable. On the other hand, I think Ned is annoying. I've never really liked Ned. He's just kind of there, and he's honestly kind of a bad friend, and that's never more evident than in the next installment in this franchise. I also love Peter's growing relationship with Happy. One of my favorite moments in this movie that hits me in the feels every time I watch it is when Happy and Peter have the heart-to-heart over Tony's death. It's a poignant moment where Happy has to get real honest with Peter about who he is and who he's supposed to be at a time when Peter desperately needs it. The effects in this film are fantastic. I think the suit looks as real as ever in this one. One of my big complaints of Holland's Spidey is that more times than not, the suit looks just too fake. Just too much CGI is utilized. I don't think they use enough of real wardrobe, and I think his suit falters because of that. The elementals are extremely well done. I know some people were upset that we didn't get the actual characters. These are just illusions. I didn't care. Spider-Man's got so many villains from the comics, like, we're never going to get through all of them, and the elementals to me have always been sort of just like B to C-list villains. Outside, I think Sandman's an elemental. I could be wrong. Outside of Sandman, the other ones I just don't really care about, so it was not a big problem for me. And of course, all of Mysterio's illusions look amazing and are all, I thought, very well thought out. And to that end, the action is just so enjoyable. I actually prefer the action sequences in this one compared to Homecoming, even though I think Homecoming is the better film. I just think with Mysterio and his tech, along with the elementals and their different power sets, there are more creative set pieces that are all so well executed. And like I said before, that Mysterio scene with the massive illusion in the warehouse and the train yard, incredible. I think my big negative is that sometimes it feels like this movie just meanders a little too much, especially towards the middle, and it does feel a little bit long for the pretty basic story that it's trying to tell. I still think Homecoming is the more enjoyable film, and quite honestly, Far From Home might be the worst in this trilogy, but that's absolutely not a bad thing. I think all three of these films are very entertaining. This one just happens to fall to the bottom. But as it stands, Holland's second solo outing has a few flaws, but overall, it's a very fun, thrilling, comical, emotional return to this character. Coming off the back of how epic Endgame was, I don't know if you could follow it up in a better way. In universe, this character was one of the closest allies of Tony's left standing, and I think continuing to utilize Spidey as a tool to mourn Tony and ultimately move on was a good idea. Holland may not be the next Tony, but he has carved out a well-deserved spot in the MCU.